All right, welcome back to the Conquest Corner. On this particular episode, we are going to be going more through the Yoroni. Specifically, we are going to get through the rest of the characters and regiments that we haven't discussed yet that aren't the modular regiments. Like I said, I'm saving that one for last because to me it just makes the most sense to discuss it once we know all the bits and pieces. So we're kind of referencing a little bit more cleanly, at least. So that means, and my pronunciations aside, of course, we're going to be talking about the Daimyo, the Oyabun, the Yokai, and the Daimyo no Yokai today. For anyone who hasn't watched any of the other ones, I'm going to start by discussing a little bit of the ideal cards to make sure we understand the basic premise for the army. We'll talk more about the modular stands when we get to those, of course. We'll take a look at the two characters. We'll take a look at the two monsters. The characters we know are dual kit. The monsters should be as well. That is my assumption. I can't imagine they have more than two monster kits off of the short or small differences between them. So we're just going to make that assumption. The monsters we haven't seen anything about yet, but we do know about the characters. We know they'll be in that first wave, which I want to say is like end of March 25th or something like that. I don't remember the exact date. Do keep in mind, if you want to pick up this or anything else for Conquest, we do have a discount code in the show notes below. It's Train Kickers, saves you 10%, helps out the show as well, helps keep bringing this and a bunch of other stuff to you as well. All right, without much further ado, let's get into this because that way we can get through it and I can maybe tonight record the other one. I don't know. You might see everything look very identical in the shirt and all because I might record it tonight as well. We're going to find out about that. But let's start by just discussing the basics in terms of the ideal card to make sure we understand the way this is going to work when we get through it. So this army, unlike others, doesn't add command cards. So the characters and regiments don't add those. They add ideal cards. All of your characters and regiments have an ideal attached. We're going to see the monsters have a little bit something interesting for them, but they have an ideal attached. So it could be Ka, Chi, Fu, Sui, or Mu. When you pull a card out of your stack, so you're going to make your stack as normal, you're going to pull a card out of that stack, and that card, no matter what ideal it says, can activate anything you like. However, if its ideal matches the activated ideal, so either be the character or the regiment, then that regiment, that either the regiment that activated or the regiment the character is in, is going to gain a bonus. You're going to notice the whole time I have the bonuses off to the side of the screen because we need to keep those in mind of exactly what's going on here. So for those bonuses, Ka, which is one of the ones we're going to see now, is +1 impact, +1 brutal impact. All of these are until end of round. Chi is Indomitable 2. Fu is +2 inches on your first march. Sui is you may choose a stand in that regiment, have that stand's command rules replace the current command rules until the end of the round. That really helps in modular stands. And we're going to see when we get to some modulars, when you have a command stand, they have different sets of rules, things that they added. And Mu, +1 to the evasion, up to a max of 3. So for each one of these, then, they're giving you different abilities. And we see that those abilities, honestly, are rather strong for what they can do for you. They really help buff up what your units do. And it doesn't make sense to talk about these things unless we have this in mind, because since this is a key characteristic of them, there's a lot of interaction with this. All right, with that out of the way, let's actually get to the units. So we're going to take a look at the two characters first. We're going to take a look at the Daimyo. For anyone who doesn't know, and again, this is my own looking it up and knowing, a Daimyo essentially was like a feudal lord ruling over various provinces or bits of land. And Oyabun is more of like a leader in like a Yakuza gang sort of view. So both types of leaders, but a little bit different. Both sitting 110, exactly the same points that the Kasune are right now. We've seen before that once the armies actually release, you start seeing some different changes. So they're all sitting at 110. That's not going to end up staying that way. It might not even really stay that way once it comes out. It might even happen before, but we have to wait and see. Both of them are sitting at volley 1. Both have 6 attacks with 7 wounds, 4 resolves, 3 defense, 2 evade. Difference is the clash. The Daimyo gets the 4, the Oyabun gets a 3. So naturally, the Daimyo is a little bit better in terms of combat because it's, if Inspire, going to get 4 with rerolls. Remember, Inspire can't take you above a 4. It just starts giving you rerolls of 6s, I should say. Just to make sure that's clear. All the supremacies for all of their characters work identical. The basic idea is whatever their battlefield role is, so Ka for the Daimyo, Chi for the Oyabun, that you get to replace it with something when you activate that particular role card. So when I pull a Ka card out of, if the Daimyo is my leader, I pull a Ka card out. All right, I can replace the effect with something. We'll take a look at that something in a second. And then one round of the game, you choose when, obviously it's supremacy phase, but one round of the game, anyone who activates with a Ka card gets the Ka benefit. They don't have to be a unit that has the Ka ideal itself. So, taking a look at what his does, Lord of the Roaring Flames. When you do that replacement, he said, you get Glorious Charge. Glorious Charge, for anyone who doesn't know, when you successfully charge, your impacts actually get the +1 clash. So you get inspired on your impacts. And Terrifying 1 as well, which is quite good. There's not very much Terrifying here, so getting a little bit of that can be quite nice. We looked at the other day, a little bit of it, but there's not a whole lot otherwise, so that's a nice way to get it. And that extra clash on there, keep in mind for both of these, just saying it now, they're only mainstay, and the only units they're allowed to go in are the modular regiments. So Ka naturally ups impacts and brutal impact. If you look at the modulars, the Kami, the Kappa, I think it's the Kappa, right? Yeah. The Kappa does, the Oni does, Origami no doesn't, and the Tengu Bushi does. Yes, they all get impact. So essentially everything but Origami Warriors and the Tengu Akiashi, which essentially are the ranged ones, everyone else gets impact. So working off a Ka can be very helpful if you have that as your battlefield role. The round that you pick that everyone gets it if they draw that card can be very useful, because now most of what you're having is getting extra impact and getting some brutal impact, which if you notice they really don't have. Actually, I don't think they have at all, honestly, if I really go back and take a look at it. So for this more fighty character, he's getting Cleave 2. So he's hitting him a better Cleave 2. Impact 3. They're both Impact 3. They both have Powerful Presence. The exact same rule we saw on the Kitsune. Powerful Presence just means that you count as 3 stands for purposes of objectives. So they're brutes, but instead of the standard 1 stand, they're more like a monster. They count as 3s. Can take a single discipline. Like I said, the only thing they're going in is modular regiments. When we compare it to the Oyabun, they said same exact points, clashes 1 less. His supremacy, Lord of the Eternal Mountain. His replacement gives +1 Hardened and Oblivious. So adds a lot to survivability. That's removing 1 cleave, and you're only taking 1 damage for every 2 failed morale. Since you are, again, a points-wise expensive army, you are probably going to be lesser amounts of models in general, which means anything that ups your survivability is really, really helpful, and especially good when you are starting out or learning, because you're more likely to get what you need. Now, it does have to be with Chi regiments in that case, but we'll talk about some of those options in a moment. The Oyabun only gets Cleave 1. It does get Forward Force, so it does have Flank. You can choose exactly the moment that particular unit comes in. Oh, just noticed that was off there a little bit. There we go. And gets Quicksilver Strike, in case you don't remember. That means in a duel, you swing first. If you both have Quicksilver Strike, then you go simultaneous, but otherwise, you swing first. This only helps in a duel, so they could always turn it down. We're going to see there's an upgrade that I believe it's another Ka. It might be on a Chi, I don't remember which one, but we'll take a look in a second. That means it can't also gives Quicksilver and can't refuse duels. But at 7 wounds, that's not bad. You'll probably want to be trying the duel. At 7 wounds with a Cleave 1 with a Clash of 3, pretty good, especially if you get to hit them first. And the Daimyo, again, 6 attacks, but now you're sitting on 4 space with Cleave 2. You are also probably going to be challenging, honestly. With 7 wounds on a 3-4 or evade of 2, so a 2-4, you have a very good shot at being able to actually survive out. I forgot to do the Mew disciplines when we talked about the 2 monsters. I might mention them now. They're nice, but the big thing with those, they're both Mew, but as monsters, they can't take the discipline upgrade. Keep in mind, the way you take disciplines here is for every character of a particular ideal you have, you may purchase 1 item from that list. You are not restricted to who it goes on, though. So if you want one of the mute items, you have to take one of the 2 character monsters, either the Geisha or the Mahatsu. Let's take a look at the Ka disciplines. So, yeah, there's the way the Kensai for 40 points, Quicksilver Strike, and you cannot refuse the duel. For this particular character, that is quite good. Cleave 2, swinging first with, 6 attacks on 4s naturally, so you're getting most of the hits. Assuming they don't have ways to negate all of your cleave, then they're probably on very little armor, or maybe a tiny little bit of evade, choosing the right targets, of course. Don't choose someone who's going to survive a crit and hit you back. Very, very expensive points-wise, but into a lot of middling characters, or even to somewhat good characters, the fact you're swinging first and they're going to have to take it anyway means that that 40 points is probably going to be taking out characters. Unless they're a brute character as well, they're usually not near that amount of wounds. They might be, somewhere 3, 4, maybe even like a 5. But between all the things you have a reasonable chance of actually taking them out. So if you're taking this guy, if I had to spare 40 points, I'm not sure I have a spare 40 points, but if I do have it, I do like the upgrade for him. I probably like it for him just the best in general. The Oyabun doesn't need it. The Geisha and the Mahatsu can't take it, obviously. And the Kitsune has a good amount of attacks. I want to say it was like 8 attacks, but no cleave. And so swing a bunch, but not being able to help the way through. I'd rather swing like 2 less, but your saves are much more garbaged. So, other upgrade can give the regiment that the character's in Terrifying 1. Nice to have. For 10 extra points, I'd probably take the challenging one personally. The last one is each regiment that fails a defense roll against a character stand with this character upgrade. The wound counts as 2 for testing morale. I do like that. I do think that is actually pretty useful. You are looking at, again, I in this particular case, I think the Daimyo or the Oyabun, again, the Oyabun can only take it if you have a Daimyo because he is the Ka, which means that's the only way you can buy this particular discipline. But either one of these, I do like that with. Even Cleave 1, I think is still pretty good. Remember, they do get some impacts as well. And it's a defense roll against a character stand. I mean, he does his own impact, so yeah. Again, for the Kitsune, I'm not so quite as enthused about it, but I do like that. It's a lot cheaper, so you just might have that spare. Take a look at Chi. Get Hardened +1. It's a rule you don't really have in this army. So if I'm taking the Oyabun for 30 points, that's pretty good. Again, upping your survivability is quite big. This is Hardened +1. If the Oyabun is your warlord, we saw Supremacy can give another Hardened +1. You could be Hardened +2 because there's a good amount of Cleave 1, especially though the Cleave 2 and some of those big brutish monsters or sometimes brutes that are at Cleave 3. So really lowering their ability to do that is pretty nice. Not necessarily sure I would take it, but I like it overall. Tenacious +1. It always just feels good to just say, no, that one's fine. Yeah, I passed that. Of the 2, the Tenacious is always useful. The Hardened doesn't come into play quite as much, but if you aim then at the right units, it's going to help you out quite a bit. Although, again, if he's your warlord, Oyabun's the warlord, I'm not quite as worried about it. This could be something good on the Bakatsu, since it would be in combat potentially. And for the training, if they perform no actions, they get Hardened 3. Great for sitting on an objective. I don't know if I necessarily want to be doing that, because I need it on the character. I need the points spent on the character and their unit. But keep in mind, they're only able to take, these particular guys are taking just the modular regiments. The other ones can take them all as well. They have some other choices, but they're taking them as modular. Or can take modular, I should say. Which means that you could just buy 2 stands, this, go sit on an objective somewhere, and you don't matter. No one's over Cleave 3. So they just have no Cleave. Which means now you're hoping you have a decent defense. So maybe it's the cheapest. I'm not huge on it for this moment, because what I'm curious about, I haven't sat down and built a bunch of lists yet, which is going to be probably after the modular stands video. It's just building various lists that try to achieve different objectives. But my sort of thought on that one is that you're giving up a good amount of points to try and score. And if you're not taking a big enough regiment, maybe it doesn't quite do enough. Although, Oyabun, whatever character you put in there, is counting as 3 stands themselves. You have, say, 2 other stands. So you are a 5 stand for grabbing objectives. That's over average. Average being a 3 to maybe a 4. It is... if the regiment performs no activations at all. So you could take an Oniomi, the essentially caster Kitsune. It may still cast, so hardened 3, and now it's casting, because again, it can take modular regiments as well. That might not be bad. So if you have an Oyabun in there, you could take this upgrade, put it on that Kitsune. Now you can still cast out your ranges if you were in a good range, and you're much more survivable. Because we did say when we talked about Domiyami that one of the issues with a 12-inch caster is trying to survive. That's a good way to get it. We forgot to talk about the Mew upgrades, so I'll just talk about them really briefly. When you're under the effect of Mew, you can do an entourage activation. So you can do character, then unit. Really nice. You do have to take one of your 2 monster characters, though, to put this on one of the others. I do like that, though, in general, on, like, say, Daimyo. Or, but you have to be, but you have to be under the effects of Mew Ideal card is the problem. A little bit tougher to use. It's tougher to use because the 2 things that naturally bring it can't have anyone with them. And the regiment has to be under the effects of Mew, which means that for this activation, you'd have to have the character go, Mew count for them, which means for some of these, it's really only going to happen once a game. If either the Geisha or the Mahatsu is your warlord, then 1 round a game, everyone gets the Mew ability, or gets the count like they're a Mew when you pull a Mew card, which means you can do this purification rites. I don't see other ways off the top of my head that you can do it otherwise. If someone does know, if you're watching on YouTube, put it down in the comments. But I'm not seeing the ways that you're going to use this a whole lot otherwise. Because the problem is the other units don't have that battlefield role. I don't know. There's probably something I'm missing. I'm hoping there's something I'm missing. I'm just not seeing a large amount of use of it. Flow. Friendly regiments can draw line of sight and check for obscuring through regiment that character's in. Nice. And when the last one, Fuda, the character activates using a Mew card, you can have that regiment count as any other ideal. That one's actually really, really useful. Because that one says, hey, when you have this Mew ideal card, just choose whatever you like. That adds a lot of flexibility. So for 10 points, if you are taking one of those monsters, that one I do like. And I would throw that on either of these guys, and you can choose what you need at the point. Ka is nice, but Ka only helps if I'm about to impact or do anything like that. If I'm already in there, I probably want Chi. If I'm trying to get up there, Fu, just to get the extra movement. We're just doing modular stands. The C can be good. There's a little about the upgrades. For him, I do like for the Daimyo, I should say, in case you're just listening to this instead of watching. For the Daimyo, I do think the upgrade of you get first strike and no one can turn down your challenges is very good on a cleave too. The Oyabun, for his Chi, if you're giving something out of that itself, giving Hardened or Tenacious is pretty nice. But hey, the other option, since if you bring him, you get 1 extra for that Chi, that resistance, I kind of like to give that onto the Omiyai. That's these 2 overall. Okay, so the same points. You got 1 box. Which one do you build, or which one do I build? For what I see so far, Knowing that a lot of the modulars have impact, I like the Daimyo a little bit more, only because one, Cleave 2 is very strong. There's not a lot of that here. I believe one of the other regiments, one of the Yokai that we're going to take a look at has that, I believe. Well, I can click on it and check real fast. One's Cleave 1, one's Cleave 3. Okay, that's what it was. Otherwise, this is your only thing better than Cleave 1. Impact is fine. The forward force is good on the Oyabun, but I'm okay. I'm okay if you don't have that. Getting the extra clash is very strong, but like I said, getting Ka ability, so getting +1 impact, getting brutal impact, where you have a lot of modular regiments, that gets some impact. So now you're looking at impact 3 on all your stands that fit that, which is most of those modulars, like 4 out of 6. Getting the brutal, so you're much more likely to actually get some of those through. I really do like that. I do think that's pretty good. So of the two, he's probably the one that I would build personally. Me, the way I am over time, I would have like one of each. I don't foresee any reason, unlike in some other armies where sometimes you take multiples of characters, I don't foresee myself wanting multiples of any of these. Part of the reason why is because I want the various battlefield roles, or I want to be able to take the different disciplines. I want more than one character. I probably want 2, maybe even 3 characters. Probably 2 if I'm taking one of the big monsters. The Geisha, the Mahatsu. But otherwise, I'm taking 2 characters, maybe even 3, to give me some different battlefield roles, put some different cards into that deck. Remember, when a character goes into a unit, if the character's activated with their corrected card, the unit gets the regiment gets the ability. And then the regiment itself, when they go, if they're a different type, so say the Daimyo is in a Chi regiment, if he activates on a Ka card, you get that bonus. They activate on the Chi card, they get the bonus then. So you can double up. So that's why I want up some variety here. But the two, I would probably start with the Daimyo personally. I don't know if I like the model more than the other though. I pulled up the pictures quickly for anyone who's listening. Yeah, I kind of do. The Oyabun's like smoking a pipe. I'm not as thrilled with that personally. So the Daimyo I prefer, which is nice because it's the way I actually want to prefer to run this thing. All right, that's the 2 characters. Let's then take a look at the last 2 things that aren't modular that we have to talk about, was the Dai Yokai and the Genya no Yokai. So the Dai and the Genya. Both 260, so both same amount of points. These are your monsters. Heavy. The first time we've actually had to worry about things being heavy, but I'll mention that they're heavy now. They're both move 7 with a volley of 1, so that doesn't matter. Both 18 wounds, 4 resolve, 3 defense, 2 evade. They list currently as all the battlefield roles. We'll talk about how that happens. For the Dai, it's 12 attacks on Clash 4. The Genya is 11 attacks on Clash 3. My apologies. So 1 extra attack and 1 extra clash value for the Dai. Already quite good. The reason they list all their battlefield roles is because they gain the ideal card as the Warlord. All right, yeah, I checked and thought about it. So both of the regiments will add the ideal card that the Warlord is. So whoever your Warlord is, whoever's supremacy that you like, that's the card they add. However, they have every battlefield role, which means when they're acted by any ideal card, they will get that bonus because they're counting as all of them. So remember, they're not narrowing down which one they are. They're only narrowing down which one they bring. You're forced to bring the one that matches your Warlord. You count as all of them. All right, so let's take a look at the Dai Yokai first. So he's cleave 1. Nice, a little bit of cleave is very good, especially on your monster. You don't want a monster with no cleave, unless you got a whole bunch of other stuff. Fearless, both are. Impact 5. Terrifying 1, they're both terrifying. Both have the Vanguard 3. Both are unstoppable. So, little bit of cleave, but does have that extra attack, that extra clash value. It does have its own special action, though. Oh, and the other thing I should mention, it can get a free duel, like it was a character. So you can so you can charge at swing and duel, although they can turn it down. They can't take any upgrades, so your opponent can always turn it down. But remember, there is downsides to turning down duels. And keep in mind, if someone is broken, they cannot refuse a duel. So for this thing, since you do get a free duel action, if you charge, hit someone, and break them, you can duel them as your free action afterwards. They can't turn it down. Your 12 attacks on on Clash 4 Cleave 1, Terrifying 1, you're probably going to destroy whatever it is, whatever that character is. But their action is actually really interesting. You have to be out of combat for this. It's the first action you're going to perform, and then your activation is going to end immediately afterwards. So it's going to end up being the only action you do. You do a 12-inch march directly forward. You ignore all intervening regiments and characters, so don't count anything in the way. And you have to place at a legal position at the end. So essentially, walk forward 12 inches. Legally placed, but walk forward 12. You select an enemy that the Yokai has walked over, and you do a clash action against it. You do count as if it was front arc. You do count as if you were in base contact, because your opponent could have a defensive rule and things like that matter about when someone's hitting them in the front or when they're in contact with them. We're looking at, I know there's at least City States has some where it's like, okay, you get minuses if you are touching the stand and all. 100 Kingdoms had that. I think City States might have that as well, but I'd have to go back and review all the different pieces. But what's nice about this, it's not quite as far as your normal move, but you can go past an enemy. This means that you really aren't going to get screened out as well. It's much harder to screen you out. You're a very big base. So fitting that big base can be tough. The base is what? Like 4 inches? 4 some inches? All right, yeah, so I actually just went and measured a base. The bases are almost exactly 4 inches, the big ones. You need to end outside of, you need legal placement, so you need to be an inch outside of the opponent. So your back end needs to be able to cover your 4 inches, the extra inch, the enemy base, about 2.5. And, and then some position from the front as well. So you're probably looking at almost 10 inches there. So you really have to be within a couple inches of the opponent. I don't care to do it right this moment, but you could actually sit down and math out exactly where you have to be. But essentially, you need to be rather close because you have to be able to pop the full bit behind it, which means you have to be able to cover quite a bit distance, or have them, you don't have to cover them flatly. You can be, kind of angled to them going past them. But it does mean that you aren't as easily screened by one unit pushing forward, getting into your face. They thought they would speed bump you, slow down. No, just go over top of them. Get into that better spot, something like that. So I don't know how much I would use that action personally, but I do think it's nice to have. It's also good where if you ever get that sort of case where you're kind of in an awkward position, I could hit you, but then you're teed up to wail into me, because let's face it, 18 wounds is nice, but how many times have you had a monster where someone else gets into their flank and really just ravages them? And if they go first the next round, boom, now your monster's gone. At least I've had it happen to me quite a bit. So being able to still hurt that unit, but not have to actually engage them to do it, means that you could get out of that spot where they're trying to play a little bit of chess with you of, I'm trying to force you to make this move, because then I have the way to take your piece that does that move. I'll sacrifice something lesser to take something much bigger. So the Yokai, overall good. I think I like the Ginyu a little bit more. Let's go into a little bit about that. Gets the same thing, has all the different battlefield roles. Cleave 3. This is your big cleave monster in here. It is also fearless. Impact 7, so a little more impact. Terrifying 1, the Vanguard 3, it's unstoppable. It adds the same ideal card of the Warlord like we talked about. Keep in mind, either of these then, whatever card they activate, they get some bonuses, which is quite nice. Here's what I really like about this one, a Lightning Fury. Okay, yeah, I checked. A Lightning Fury is supposed to be on the Ginyu, and they mentioned the wrong name, but it is for the Ginyu. So that's just a typographical error. Each time the Daimyo no Yokai gains the benefit an ideal card, it keeps those effects until the end of the battle. And should the Daimyo no Yokai gain the benefits an ideal card modified by the World Supremacy, it keeps those effects instead. Both of these get all the battlefield rolls, which means they always get a bonus. But the Genyo no Yokai keeps stacking on bonuses. Remember, you can't get the same one twice, but that does mean a few things, so that's nice. One, for either of them, when you want them to go, you're going to get something. No matter what card you pull, you'll at least have something. Su is the only thing that doesn't help you at all. But, yeah, stand in the regiment. Yeah, command set. None of that helps. I was just making sure there's any weird, like, wording thing. No, that's the only one that doesn't help. But that means there's other 4 good choices. +2 to your first march. Indomitable 2. Extra impact and brutal impact, because both these impact. They don't have brutal naturally. An extra evade. The Daiokai, again, the dual part is nice, but they had to have a character. They had to accept, unless you hit them first, break them, and then they are already broken and they can't refuse. But I've done that a bunch with my Rakshasa. It's not, it doesn't always work as cool as you think. It does sound very neat, but it doesn't always get me exactly where I want to go. The other one is 1 less attack, 1 less clash, but cleave 3 instead of 1. So here's your big, monster slayer, other big concern, something that has, shields and hardened or anything like that. I'm still cutting through you. Has a lot of the other same stuff, gets a little bit more impact, but it gets to keep that bonus. So let's face it, the turn it comes in, so it's a heavy, might be allowed to can come in turn 3. Let's assume the Genyo no Yokai is your automatic for turn 3. So this thing's coming on turn 3, but it's not going to do anything for you because it's not allowed to fight anyone right then. So normally what I tend to do with my big monster like that is they're the last activation I have. And I always like to do them as the very last activation, just because I want you to have fully committed and not be able to do something to my monster. I don't want to bring it in and then turns out you can shoot it, or maybe you did something I didn't expect and you can charge him. So I would probably, depending on the opponent's army, I would put the very last card if I have, say, Fu card. Now remember, you have to have the cards. There's no guarantee you have all 5 cards available to you. It depends on the units that you're bringing. But if I'm bringing this guy, the Genyo no Yokai, I'm going to try to make sure I have at least 1 copy of every card. Other than Su, because that does matter. But the other ones I would. I might start with Fu because, hey, now it gets extra on its march. Or just start giving it some of the other stacks. Any of the other one just to get it set up for future rounds. I probably would want for within those first 2 to make sure that the turn it's going to go try and charge in to try to give it the Ka card, because now it's getting 8 impact with brutal impact 1 on 3s. You're looking at 4. 1 of that, you are still terrifying. You're going to really start getting some good results in. Mew or Chi, depending on what type of issues your opponent's going to cause to you. When I look at, so Indomitable is very good once you get into someone, because you're going to resolve 4, but you're going to fail some. Indomitable 2 means, and this goes for the Dai Yokai as well, that particular turn, I need to make sure that I stick around, or I'm facing someone who has some terrifying themselves. Oh no, sorry, they're fearless. They don't care about that. But even then, I'm facing someone where that is a concern, or, when I roll 6s, it counts as extra wounds. Well, okay, now I got Indomitable. I remove some of those fails. Things like that. Because when we take a look at Indomitable, yeah, you treat a failed. Let me zoom in a little bit so people can read it. Once it actually decides to do as I asked it to. Just make sure we understand the exact wording on Indomitable currently. When the regiment rolls a morale test, treat X failed results as successes where it's the value in there. Which means, yeah, you could pick off the ones that you're concerned about. Oh, sorry, there we go. Is the Genyo no Yokai necessarily better than the Dai Yokai? Debatable. To me, there's probably some debate. And someone could probably tell me the reasons why the other one's better. Again, that action is very attractive for the Dai Yokai. Being able to do some duels in very particular sneaky ways can really get you some extra bang for your buck. But me personally, I prefer the Genyo no Yokai for a few things. One, it really plays into the ideal mechanic. You get to keep the ideal. Not only do you just get the bonus right now, you just have it. Which means now I'm playing a little bit of an extra game of when might I want this thing to go to try to have the right card in its spot. if I wanted to say go first in a round, now I truly care about what card goes first. Otherwise, if I'm in a spot where it's really not going to do much, or, oh, they went first and what they did, I don't have to react to it yet, I'm just going to wait for the card that I want to see. Oh, he's in a pretty good spot to probably get like maybe a move charge off to get into someone's flank or something like that. I'm going to wait till my Kala card comes out. That way I can hit him better. I can do a little bit more, and I'll do that for the rest of the game. It plays into what this brand new faction has as their cool rule break of the game. So I want to play into that. And the fact it's a cleave 3 is also very, very attractive, because we've seen plenty of things out there that are sitting on defense 3, shield, or 4s, other bonuses, things like that. Here's a way to really get through them. So me, the Daimyo and Yokai is the obvious choice to me, personally. I'm giving up a little bit of hitting, giving up one attack for a lot more cleave, and just guaranteeing I have the abilities. And then nothing to say related to those warlord abilities. I said your warlord, you could replace one of these with one of those effects as well, whatever that effect was, depending on who your warlord is. So when we talked about the Daimyo, if he was, say, your warlord, he gives glorious charge. Okay, so maybe that's what you want instead. You can have some of those arguments there. So, okay, actually the ones we're seeing right here, the Daimyo and the Daimyo and Yokai, these are the ones that, of those, again, the monsters I'm assuming are dual kit, but out of that, that's what I would be going with first. That's what I kind of definitely prefer. Since they have some character monsters, like right now, I have 2 Rakshasa and I have the Mahut. I have both Rakshasa because I think they fit very different roles, and I have the Mahut because he's a giant elephant and that's awesome. Here though, since you have 2 monster characters and 2 regiment monsters, me personally building up this force, I would go with, again, Yokai, and then I talked last time about the Geisha versus the Mahatsu. I talked about probably doing the Mahatsu because that way I get a little bit of spell casting in here, but I wouldn't probably be doing like both of the character monsters and the non-character monsters. That's like too much. So that's probably what I would be doing. Okay, well, that gives us some options for this. Very exciting choices. We leave theoretically the best thing for last, or at least the most complicated thing for last, is the modular stands. So that's going to be the next video that you get from me. You will probably see it within about a day or 2 related to this video. I might be recording it immediately. I haven't decided. I have some other things I'm doing as well. If I don't record it tonight, I might be recording it in the morning. But you'll see that one. That one is going to be very interesting to talk about, because we have to talk about what the different pieces do and the way you might combine them and their bits and all of that. And now that we have all the rest of it done, we can also talk about, okay, well, we're referencing characters and types and all of that, and how do you put those sort of things in. We'll make that as well-rounded a discussion as possible. Won't be able to talk about all the combinations or anything like that, but that's why we're also going to do a list building episode, where we're just going to talk about making some different types of lists. Somewhere, let's try to max out the modular stands. Keep in mind, general competitive play or competitive rule is 2 of a character, 8 of a regiment type. Modular stands are regiment type, at least as worded now, so that means you're going to have up to 8. So I probably have one where I try to max them out like that, and other ones where maybe I try to run a little bit larger and really try to take advantage of maybe the zoo ability, where I can switch who counts as the command stand in terms of ability and all of that. And then another video I'm going to be working on, I don't know exactly when you're going to see it. I might try to get out before the tournament, but I have a tournament upcoming weekend, and I'm going to be putting some lists together, so I thought it might be interesting to do a video talking about the way I approach tournaments, or sort of thought process around that, how I approach list building, and then actually just build some lists. I haven't even decided which army I feel like taking. I was going to absolutely take my Sorcerer Kings, but I also thought, because I'll get blank amount painted and then fully painted force. Almost all of it is, but my Maharabati, not quite there yet. The Mahut, I'm just about to start doing his marbling. And Spoiler, it's Thursday right now. That's on Sunday. I don't know if I'm going to have time to get all done. So maybe I bring my Old Dominion instead. I haven't decided what I want to actually do. I'm probably going to play a test game or two tomorrow to try to figure out what I'll have more fun with. I'm not worried about winning necessarily because, one, I care more for fun, but also the way we do price support usually when I run things specially for out of Maplewood Hobby, we just randomize it. If you win, you usually get at least your money back, maybe a little bit more, but otherwise all the prizes are random. We do that because we want to try to foster a more fun community. You came out, you have a shot against something, no matter how good or bad it went for you that day. Because let's face it, playing in a tournament, part of it is random circumstance. Oh man, my list is really good against most things. I faced the guy who brought this. Or he brought some weird list and I don't know what to do about it. Or, oh, that's like a faction I don't really see that much. Oh, my dice rolls went a little bit low at certain spots when I needed it. Because that happens. There's subjective dice and there's objective dice. Your dice can be subjectively bad, but they can be objectively bad as well. I'm gonna do a different thing related to that, but the big difference of that is if you've been doing fine, except that one time you need a roll, they are subjectively bad. If, the last 7 attempts I've done for this thing, I have failed each and every time, and it should be a very, very easy thing to do, that is much more objectively bad. So, I do want to do a video discussing list building thoughts and stuff like that. I just don't know if it's going to be out before I go to that tournament. Maybe. We have to see. The day's got a little bit more away from me than I thought, so we'll find out. But if you're enjoying this, play more Conquest content. There's some BattleTech stuff coming up as well. More Trench Crusade. Love to get back to some of the other things that we used to talk about as well. I do want to do that. I just want the other guys around as well. And I know it's hopefully things are now settling, especially as we get into the semester. And we have to kind of see how all that goes. So that's the hopeful bits of all of those things. As I said in the beginning, if you're looking to pick up anything for Conquest, we do have a discount code. Saves you 10%, helps out as well. It's Train Kickers. We do a Patreon as well, but I push this more just because you get something out as well. You are saving money, helping us out, but you're also getting models. At the end of the day, hey, why not get something for yourself? All right, well, that's enough of all that then. On behalf of everyone at the show, have some good hobbying. It's a great gaming.